All right, so first play we're going to look at, 2nd and 2, one of the Patriots' first offensive plays.
What's going on, everyone? Mike Kadlick, Tayler Kyles here for CLNS Media outside of Gillette Stadium, here to get you ready for 2025 Patriots training camp. And we are going to take a look at the players with the most to prove heading into this season. We'll start with the offense. 4 guys who we think, frankly, there's a lot riding on this season. A lot of expectations around this Patriots team, but specifically with these 4 players. We will start with Reandre Stevenson. Taylor, what does Reandre have to prove this year? Obviously heading into a crucial year. Patriots draft a running back in the 2nd round. They also have Antonio Gibson on the roster. They bring in Lane Larison as well. What does Reandre have to do this season to prove that he frankly can remain the Patriots starting running back?
Well, the biggest thing that Reandre needs to prove is that he can be reliable. Now, that's in terms of ball security and durability. Ball security was a massive problem for Reandre Stevenson. And while the volume was an outlier, we do know that for multiple seasons, fumbling has been an issue. You're not going into the year thinking that Reandre is not going to fumble the football. So this needs to be the year that he proves to this coaching staff and team that he is someone who can tote the rock, be their bell cow without coughing it up and putting his offense in difficult positions. And also, I think just the durability. Like, he wants to be one of the leading rushers in Patriots history. I think he said he wanted to be the leading rusher in Patriots history. You got to be on the field for that. Now, I do need to acknowledge in both of these cases, he has had some of the worst blocking in football since his 2nd season in the league. 2021, you kind of saw what he could do behind good blocking, and then just they put the entire offense on his plate in 2022 because they had to, and then 2023 and 2024, you just started to see things really start falling apart. But this feels like the year where you have a deep backfield, so he doesn't necessarily have to carry the load, and maybe that allows him to be a little bit fresher. But also, if he can protect the ball, you already know that he's one of the toughest tackles among all running backs in football. So now, again, it's just about staying on the field and not being the reason that the offense is in those tough positions.
Another guy we want to talk about here, we went back and forth on this before actually clicking record, but it's Will Campbell, Patriots' 4th overall pick. There was a lot of discourse, a lot of discussion. Is he a guard? Is he a tackle? Patriots seemingly going forward with him as their left tackle, despite the short arms on him. But do you think he can do it? What does he have to prove? What does he have to show you in his rookie season that he is a left guard and isn't going to have to be bumped inside?
Yeah, so initially
a left tackle, excuse me.
I'm slipping.
Yeah, exactly.
And I will say, I didn't love the idea of putting a rookie on the list, but he's a top 5 pick. And if you're a top 5 pick, you need to come in, you need to make an impact, and you need to not be a liability. As a run blocker, I really do think that Will Campbell is going to be a guy who is an impactful and difference-making player on this team. Not so worried about improving that. What I think he has to do as a pass protector is at least be average. But at the same time, you'd hope for better from a top 5 pick. You'd hope that he can come in and really be that stabilizing presence. But like we said, it's not just the short arms, it's the narrow frame as well. And you're going up against the best pass rushers on the planet, often week in and week out. There's not a whole lot of teams that don't have at least one guy that scares the crap out of you. And a lot of those guys, although in this modern age they play both sides, but most of the time you're going to get those pass rush specialists off the right edge where Will Campbell's going to be. So you just need to make sure that he's someone who, like I said, in the run game, you know that he's someone that defenses are going to have to game plan for. But also, you don't have to go into games thinking, oh man, I don't like this matchup for Will Campbell. If it's a Myles Garrett, even like a Chop Robinson, where they just have put up stupid numbers and have shown crazy skills, like, you understand that's going to be a battle. But if you're playing, above average guys, they need to remain silent against Will Campbell. So that's going to be the biggest thing that I'm looking for. And yeah, you got to prove it because you're a top 5 pick. So while it may be tough to expect a rookie left tackle to be one of the better players in this position, given where Will Campbell was drafted, I don't really care what the draft year was. If it was a weak class, there's an expectation of you, and he's going to have to prove that.
Speaking of first-round picks on the left side of the Patriots offensive line, Cole Strange, slated right now as the left guard, has dealt with a ton of injury, some up-and-down play, as we know, but he is right now, like I said, slotted as the left guard. What does the former first-round pick out of UT Chattanooga have to do in 2025 to prove that, frankly, he is still an NFL offensive lineman and should remain on this Patriots roster this year and for years to come?
Similar to Reandre Stevenson, it's the reliability. Durability, as we know, you have to stay on the field. That's been the biggest issue for Cole Strange. His first year was more due to play. Since then, it's been due to injury, which obviously is not necessarily his fault. But when you look at how he suffered the injury against the Chiefs that took him out and where he broke a bone, it was because he got put on skates by Chris Jones. And, horrible, horrific accident. But at the same time, you'd like to know that he's not going to necessarily be a liability when he's facing power. And even more than that, I would like to see consistency consistency in his play. We've seen stretches where, when Cole Strange has been on the field for a while, usually towards the end of the season, you do see his play start to improve. But I want to see the IQ where you're not letting free rushers in, right? You're not just letting unblocked guys get to your quarterback, because that's the scariest thing, especially with a guy like Drake May. That's your franchise. You need to make sure you protect him. Also, consistency as a run blocker. He's really good as a puller. He's got the athleticism to be dominant on outside zone, but can he also be a force when they're running those downhill schemes, and can he generate movement? And I mean, if this guy's going to start, he was a first-round pick. Now, if I'm putting Will Campbell on this list, even if Cole Strange is overdrafted, you can make that argument, but still, he should be a starting caliber player in this league, and many people thought that was the case. So there's not a whole lot of competition. There's a lot of bodies at that position, but not a lot of guys that look like they're really pushing Cole Strange right now. So, yeah, he's got to prove that he can at least be a stable presence. He doesn't need to be a Pro Bowler, doesn't have to live up necessarily to that first-round hype, but he cannot be the glaring weak spot on this offensive line.
Be a consistent starter. That's all we want, I would say, from Cole Strange. Speaking of high offensive players picked, it's Jaylen Pope, who this is our number one. I think it's everybody's number one. Eyes are on him to be someone who can prove that he is, in fact, an NFL caliber wide receiver this season coming into year 2. What does Jaylen Pope have to show you in 2025 that he is an NFL caliber player?
Well, he's got it. That's exactly what he's got to show, that he is an NFL caliber player. Unlike other guys where we know Cole Strange can be an NFL caliber player, whether he's a starter or a backup has yet to be determined. But Jaylen Pope really didn't show us anything. There were the flashes, and I will admit, before he was moved to the X receiver, and it cannot be stated enough that this kid was not put in a position to succeed. We always talk about how important that is. Yes, Jaylen Pope still didn't help the situation by kind of just disappearing, got into his head, made some comments in the media, trying to maybe protect himself that really just brought more negative attention. But this year, it seems like he's coming with a much different mindset, spent time with Drake May and all the offensive guys who went down to North Carolina. And I think those are the small things that matter. We also saw during the spring, working off to the side with the injured guys, including Stephon Diggs, getting some mentorship. I think that's going to be huge, because I think that Jaylen Pope is a better athlete than Stephon Diggs in some ways, but I think it's really the details that are going to make a huge difference for him, because there was a little bit of fat on his routes that could get trimmed down. So with the Josh McDaniels who's going to use him to the best of his ability, I think that's going to help a lot. You're not going to see him isolated on the backside having to beat some of the best corners in the league one-on-one, because that's just not really where he thrives. But if he can be that guy who just has mousetraps for hands, who's tough at the catch point, gets open most of the time, but just at all 3 levels can be a consistent possession receiver, that's what I want to see. You don't have to be, the number 1 or even number 2 on this offense, but at least when Jaylen Pope's on the field, offenses know they have to respect him.
That is our players with the most to prove heading into 2025 Patriots training camp. Enough talking about it. We'll be able to actually watch it coming up down in Foxboro next week, starting on Wednesday. So make sure you keep it here on Patriots Press Pass. We'll have you covered throughout the entirety of training camp heading into the fall. So rate, review, and subscribe to Patriots Press Pass. CLNS Media is powered by Prize Picks, the best place to get in on the action, even throughout the summer. There is still baseball, there's women's basketball, and Taylor, we are right on the cusp of football season. There will be preseason games loaded up on Prize Picks. So if you want to get in on the action, head over to Prize Picks. Use code CLNS. You get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game.